Hi guys! Hi guys, I know I'm super backlit. It is finally nice enough outside that I can come sit outside and get some scenery behind me. Yeah, so this is Death Valley. I know I haven't posted in a really long time. I thought I'd just come outside, enjoy some of the heat, and let you guys know what this video is going to be about. So I know I haven't posted for kind of a long time. It took me a really long time to get some things posted, and then I didn't post anything. I didn't work on any videos at all for all of August. I just kind of had to get things back together after the move, and yeah. I'm gonna move you guys with me here. Come on, let's get me in the sun. Here we go. So, I'll squint into the sun for a minute. So, in this video, oh, it's bright. We're gonna have to go in here soon. So in this video, I'm going to do some poetry things. I finally finished the Kaye book like I said I would, and I have a poem that's sort of my reaction to that I wrote, I think, when I was about halfway through the book. I wrote a reaction poem. So, someone's revving their car behind me. So I'm going to do my reaction poem to the Kaye book, and I'm also going to do another poem that I wrote as a response during the eclipse. So hopefully you enjoy those, and let's get me back out of the sun. Okay, so like I said, it is actually too hot to film outside. It's a lot cooler than it has been, but too hot for my camera to last very long, and too hot for me to last very long. Even sitting in the shade, it's still pretty warm. So I came inside where all my plants are. Don't look at that one. Let's put that down here. So I wanted to talk about the Kaye book, No Matter the Wreckage, that I finished reading. It was incredible. I highly recommend this book. I don't think the praise is unfounded. I actually just noticed there's a Lin-Manuel Miranda quote on the back, so you know you're gonna like the book. There wasn't a single poem that I was just like, nah, about. I know that a lot of these have been highly peer-reviewed. A lot of these are poems that she's read for competitions, or that you've seen in her TED Talk, or there's just a lot of footage of her reading these poems aloud, most of them. So a lot of them I could hear her voice in my head as I was reading them, which was really cool. But there were a lot in here I hadn't heard from her before, and they just blew me away. I had a whole bunch of favorites throughout. I put tiny, here's how I mark my favorites. I put tiny pencil stars by the title of the poems that I really, really like, and most of the poems in this book have little tiny stars by them. It was just fantastic. It really was amazing. But since she's a poet and I'm a poet and we like to do our reactions in poetry form, I did write a poem. It's a little embarrassing. But that was the poem that I was feeling while I was reading this book. And so I'm just going to go ahead and read it for you guys. Okay, here we go. If I had a chance to meet a hero, I'd ask to meet Kaye and tell her she's my dream girl. Tell her that she shares my name and ask her if she ever thinks about how she is living my dream. Writing poems more beautiful than I ever will, big, full, open poems that wrap around you like strong arms. My poetry is quiet and full of hushed secrets. I am writing in code and misplacing the cipher. Hers is ever honest, ever gentle, full of boundless confidence, so that when she's on stage, I don't believe her when she says she feels fear. She must know her words make listeners feel calm and safe and satisfied like a big family meal. I am crouched at the table, cloistering my memories. If I ever met her, I would laugh and shake, and she would not remember me. Does she know how many poets write their frustrations out like this, in solitary awe of her? So that's my response poem. like I said, I really enjoyed that collection. It was better than I thought it was going to be. I didn't think I would just be breathless as often as I was reading it. Some of those poems struck me so hard that I sort of had to stop and absorb them. I read the collection twice, actually. Not just the individual poems twice, but all the way through it twice, because it was really that beautiful. So, probably my new favorite poetry collection, to be perfectly honest. And so the other thing that happened was the eclipse. It was 2 weeks ago now. And here at Death Valley, we got about 75% coverage, which was actually really cool. It was fun to watch as the sun was first coming down, because the angle it came down at made it look like Sailor Moon's moon, like the little crescent where the scoop is at the top. That was really cool. I didn't take any pictures. I was having a lot of trouble. National Park had the cutest glasses. Let me grab those. Okay, so these are the glasses that the National Park Service gave out for the eclipse. Glasses are this part, and it does rip off, but I kept mine together because this map was super cute. And then there's a whole bunch of information on the back about the eclipse, but I just thought that was lovely, so I saved mine so I can have that for future. But that was really cool. And so while the eclipse was going on, this is all relating to Sarah Kaye. Sarah Kaye posted, and I think it was, the person who did it was being sarcastic. It was like a astrology for poets thing, and they wrote something like, all the Libras are writing poems about death during the eclipse. And then Sarah Kaye had something like Tuck's poem about death behind back. And I read it and it was funny. And then I thought about how often that exact thing happens, where people are just like, oh, poets always write about this, like this is so overdone, so cliche. And then it started really bothering me how often that happens, that critics are criticizing the topics poets choose to write about rather than the poetry itself. So I wrote a response poem to that. So this is also a Sarah Kaye response. So here we go, from Kaye Spivey to Sarah Kaye again, I guess. But this is just in response to something she retweeted. Poets should not write about death during the eclipse, or flowers in springtime, or rain in springtime, or love in springtime, or spring in springtime, or leaves in the fall. The critics are tired of it, and forget we all have emotional responses to beauty and weather and change. In fact, poets should not write about love or death at all. It's been covered. It's done. The moon is blotting out the sun over my head, and no one wants to hear about it. All poets sound alike, the critics say, but we don't like your style. Why are your poems so political when you could write about the snow in winter, the ocean in summer? None of those things. All poets should put their pens down, go outdoors and experience life, and then write about it, but not that way. The critics say you're not a poet the correct way. The stars at night are all cliché, but where's your eclipse poem about death? It's too bad you didn't think to write about it. Not even mad. But I do think that there's a lot of that. It's more that there are a lot of times, especially during certain seasons, like especially during spring, when all the publications come out and it's their spring journal that they're putting out, and all these literary journals are like, well, but we don't want spring poems about spring. Like, then why is it your spring edition? But they're very specific. They don't want poems about love in the spring. They don't want poems about spring in the spring from poets. And I always just thought, like, what do you think, what makes it a spring edition if you don't want any spring things? I think there's a quickness to jump on things being cliche. I feel like cliche has become cliche. This is the same type of thing as with Mary Sue. It's sort of a way to stifle a certain type of interest, a certain type of writing, If you take characters like Tony Stark and make them female, people are like, Mary Sue, it's a self-insert, it's a perfect character. But all male characters are like that, and so there's something to be said about that as well, that poets tend to write about what they're feeling, what the season is. Poets tend to write about spring. We all love things being in bloom in spring because it's happening all around us, and so we use that as kind of a crux for other metaphors. And I think if all the poem was about flowers blooming, maybe that's been done, but maybe it hasn't been done that same way. And also, I don't think it becomes cliche just because someone else has done it. And I think there's been a lot of talk. I don't have really good internet out here, so I know the whole thing went around about someone saying that someone was claiming that Rupi Kaur had plagiarized them because both poems had water in them. And people were pointing out how stupid that is, and it is stupid. A lot of poems have water. I've written water poems. When you have as few words in your poem as Rupi Kaur, and I know because I follow Amanda Lovelace on Twitter as well, and she gets a lot of criticism also, and I think when you have so few words... That's my air conditioner. One sec. It's gonna take a second for it to go off. Hopefully it's not too loud. I'll just go ahead and talk over it until it turns off. So I think when you have so few words in a poem, it's very, very easy to find someone else who has used a phrase or also has used very, very few words to try and say a similar thing and used it in a similar format. Because there's so few words involved, a lot of them can overlap very easily with other poets. Sometimes it's like, craft fair where you go and you're like, man, I could make these things, but you didn't, this person did. And it's the same type of thing with those very, very short poems, is sometimes like, yes, it seems like it's a simple idea, but this person thought about it and wrote it down, and you can't be jealous that they did that and you didn't. At the same time, sometimes I think people oversimplify poems, especially when they're very, very short, and I think I might do that too. I'm not as big a fan of the very, very short poems. I say that, and then I'm a huge fan of haiku. I think that there's something in metaphor that I love, and in description that I love in poetry, and the shorter the poem is, the less room there is for it. And some people do that very, very well, and some people don't, and sometimes that's not the point of the poem. Sometimes the point of the poem is to get across something else, which I think is the case with poets who write very, very short, like Rupi Kaur and Amanda Lovelace, that it's not getting across necessarily an emotion or feeling the same way that a poet like Sarah Kaye, who has the very, very long lines and long poems, they're getting across different things. I think part of the reason that the very short poems are very popular right now, especially with younger readers, is that you can really relate to the short lines. You can fully understand and relate to those. You don't have to, slog through a poem and look for it, even though I feel like that isn't the case with most poetry. I feel like poetry is a lot more accessible than people make it out to be. I think people find the accessibility in very, very short poems like that. So that turned into a rant really quickly. Anyway, hopefully you liked this whole video today. I'm just kind of trying something new. Also, I've been doing a couple of poems that are just poetry I read, and then I put video I've taken from various places up, and let me know how you like those, because those are kind of fun to make. I just do the voiceover, so I don't have to stand in front of a camera all awkwardly like this in my kitchen. This is my microwave, by the way, that all my plants are sitting on top of. This is a really small place. So here's the fridge. I have plants all around. Actually, you can see the laundry detergent really well. I should stand up taller so you can't see the laundry detergent. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you guys are doing. How's your summer been going? Hopefully yours has been more productive than mine. I've been writing. I've been working on my novel. Maybe not as hard as I could have been, but obviously I've been doing poetry too. And I just haven't had a lot of internet access, so I'm working towards things, and hope you've been having a good summer. By the time the next video goes up, I could already be married. Wedding is in October. It's coming. We'll see. I don't think I'm going to post any footage at all from the wedding, but I say that now and who knows in the future. But yeah, let me know what you thought of the poems. Let me know how your summer's going. Leave a like if you liked this format of video. Thanks for watching. See you whenever. Bye!